Nice to see people joining here. Welcome to our webinar today. We're excited to have you here, and we're really excited to have Miriam here from Alternative Balance. So today's call is going to be all about insurance for your wellness business. So this is a super important topic and one that we will probably have a lot of questions about. Miriam's here to guide us through it. We're really excited to hear all about it. So before I hand the mic over to Miriam, I'll take you through a couple of our steps here. First of all, let us know that the chat is working. If you can, just drop into the chat, tell us who you are, where you are, and what do you need the most help with in your business right now. If you're new to OfferingTree webinars, my name is Sinead. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a yoga teacher as well as part of the OfferingTree team. We host these webinars once a month or more to add like an element of educational content to our users and to people who haven't met OfferingTree yet. So we want to hear from you. What do you need the help with? And what do you want us to try and book in webinars in future as well? So let us know in the chat what your thoughts are on that and where you are in the world. And I'll just move through our housekeeping. So drop your questions in the chat throughout. I will have questions as well, and I'll read out your questions as we go through. Stay tuned for the discount links and the downloads, and the replay will come out by email afterwards. Oh, hey, Still Float and Yoga is in Omaha, Nebraska. Hello. Angela, hey, how you doing? You need help figuring out the insurance. Yes, this is crucial, right? I think insurance is one of those things that we kind of take for granted. We don't think a lot about. I renew my policy every year and don't really look at what it covers much. I just have to provide it to the studio I work for. So yeah, it's one of those things that's going to be great to learn. And Kirsten from Las Vegas, hello. So a quick little run through about who OfferingTree are. We are an all-in-one software platform for a wellness business. We host a lot of different types of wellness businesses in the software, from health coaches to studios to solopreneurs. You might be a movement teacher. We've got psychologists. We've even got an equine business in the software as well. So it really has a raft of different options. You can book your appointments, your offerings. You can get your clients to pay for things. They can learn about you through the website. You can run your email marketing. It's kind of endless. So there's going to be a discount throughout this meeting. I'll drop it in the chat. It'll be in your replay email. And if you have any questions at all for OfferingTree as well, you can drop them in the chat and I'll get to those. So I'm going to stop my share and hand it over to Miriam.
All right. Hi. Thanks, Sinead. It's great to be here with everyone to talk about insurance and see how we can help you understand a little bit more about how to find the right coverage for your business and kind of from a risk management perspective. So, again, my name is Miriam. I'm with Alternative Balance, and I've been working in the insurance industry for a little over 20 years now. And my specialty is kind of developed into building programs, insurance programs for people in the health, beauty, and wellness industries that are simple, helping people understand insurance at an easy level, and just making sure that these professionals have access to an easy online platform to get insurance and quickly and move on to what they enjoy doing the most. So today we'll just go through some things about insurance that are specific to your industries and specific with things like working with companies like OfferingTree. And again, if you have questions, just pop them in the chat and we'll talk about those. So I will go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right. So what we're going to be talking about is how to navigate risk management for fitness professionals. This is going to include kind of holistic wellness, anybody from yoga teachers to massage therapists to personal trainers to nutritionists, people who focus on working with people to improve their health. So this is going to apply to all of you, even if you do multiple services. So one of the biggest questions that we get often is how can I prevent someone from suing me after sustaining an injury during my class or a training session? And the first thing that I always say is, well, if somebody wants to sue you, they can sue you. You're not going to be able to stop them. But having some basic things in place and understanding how to react to that kind of a situation is going to be key to keeping the costs of that incident down and to protecting your financial stability for your business. So the first key item is having insurance that is designed for your work. And we'll get into this a little bit deeper, but what I mean by this is not all insurance policies are worded in a way that they will cover services that you do. And sometimes it's difficult to know what questions to ask to make sure that your insurance policy does actually cover your services. So having some key things in mind to ask your insurance broker, or if you're searching online, knowing what to look for is really going to help you get the right insurance for you. So the second thing we'll talk about is liability waivers and how important they are, and what should be in your liability waivers to give you the most protection. And then the third piece is when responding to someone who is injured or who has property damage resulting from your services, responding with empathy, but not responsibility. That's going to be a big part of protecting yourself legally by not accepting responsibility for for an accident that somebody has. And we're going to be sending out a do's and don'ts handout for some tips on what to do and what not to do if someone is injured when you're working with them. So that will help protect you legally, and it will help your claims adjuster really be able to defend you a lot better. So let's jump into the insurance portion. The right kind of protection. What kind of insurance do you need as a fitness professional or a wellness professional? So the top two types of insurance you're going to need are on the left side here: general liability and professional liability. These are kind of the meat and potatoes of how you're going to protect your business, and they are the absolute necessary types of insurance you're going to want. So general liability is, if you think about it in simple terms, general is just, it's a broad term for anybody, kind of anything. We refer to them as slip and fall accidents. So it covers stuff like if you have a power cord going across a floor for your sound equipment and somebody walks in and trips on that cord and they get hurt, that is something that would fall under general liability. It's not directly connected to you providing a service, and the person who is injured doesn't necessarily have to be your client in order for it to fall under a general liability claim. So general liability also includes things like advertising injury, so libel, slander, copyright infringement. Those kinds of things are also going to fall under a general liability policy. So this is important for your business because it's going to cover you for things that you really don't have a lot of control over. It's those accidents that are going to be a lot more random than something like you're providing a service and there's something that happens directly related to that. This is more general than that. So this is a broad type of coverage for you. So taking it the next step is getting professional liability coverage. So this is really what's going to protect you as a professional in your industry. So if you have you give bad advice and it results in physical or economic or financial losses for your clients, if you do something that is considered a wrongful act, or you have an error in the professional service that you give, such as a breach of duty as that professional, then that's something that falls under professional liability. So an example of this is if you're a nutritionist and you suggest to somebody that they should start taking some supplements to make sure they're getting the right vitamins and minerals in their diet as you're adjusting what they're choosing to eat, and say they have a bad reaction to that supplement, that's something that they could possibly come and sue you for their medical bills for that sort of injury. And that would be something that falls under professional liability because as the professional, you recommended that they do this thing. So that's going to cover you for anything that is related to you using your professional experience to give professional advice, and somebody gets injured as a result of that. So the two coverages on the right-hand side here are really, really nice to have, and they help prevent lawsuits, and they also protect your financial status for your business. So participant accident insurance, this covers your client's medical bills, regardless of whether or not you're at fault, if they get injured. So this is really nice because it helps protect your business reputation, it protects your relationship with your client, and it prevents them from wanting to sue you because they're not going to be out of pocket paying those medical bills. So this is extremely powerful in preventing lawsuits from happening. We see this have a lot of benefit in the fitness industries. So yoga, personal trainers, group fitness instructors, you guys really benefit from having a participant accident policy. So business personal property is another really kind of, I like to say it's a must-have if you have equipment that is owned by your business or that you use for your work. So this will be any sort of fitness equipment, your computer that you use for your work, any sort of supplies, desks, anything that is related to your work. Business personal property covers that equipment, and it covers it anywhere that it goes. So the property is movable. The coverage follows that movable property. So say, for example, you have a fitness equipment and you go to clients' homes to do personal training sessions. Say you stop along the way one day to get gas and somebody breaks a window in your car and steals all of your workout equipment. That's going to take a lot of time and money for you to replace all of that equipment. So a business personal property policy is going to pay for the cost of replacement. It's also going to pay for your lost income during that time when you can't work because you don't have your equipment. And it's going to pay for any extra expenses that you have to pay that you wouldn't have had to pay if your property hadn't gotten stolen. So this is really important if you do have equipment for your business. So there are some additional coverages that we suggest that you get. These aren't necessarily required, but they are very valuable, especially cyber liability coverage. So cyber liability covers you for data breaches where your customer's information gets exposed or stolen. If you take payments online, then cyber liability would cover you for whatever your state requires you to do to notify people that their information was stolen. Even if you choose a third-party payment processor and that third-party payment processor like Venmo or Square, if they get hacked and your customer's credit card information gets stolen, then you can still be held responsible for that because as the business professional, you chose that service. So having cyber liability coverage really can protect you from all the high costs, including things like reputation. Cyber liability policies generally will include coverage for reputation management service that helps protect your reputation in the wake of a data breach. So that's very important there. If you do touch therapies, like if you're a massage therapist, we recommend having sexual abuse liability coverage. So regardless of whether or not you actually are guilty of any kind of sexual abuse or molestation, the cost of defending yourself is really high. So having sexual abuse liability coverage jumps in to pay all the legal fees and everything that would result from somebody accusing you. And it could be anything from somebody accusing you of actually inappropriately touching them to you posting photos on social media and somebody feeling like that post was inappropriate. So it could be, there's a really wide range of things that people can sue for under a sexual abuse um, policy. So if you do have touch therapies, or if you have a habit of posting pictures on your social media of your clients, having sexual abuse liability would be really important for you.
So, Miriam, which
Yeah.
one would cover online teaching? You're maybe going to come to this, but what type of things can people be sued for in like an online teaching space?
Sure. So online teaching, you're really going to want to have that professional liability portion. So sometimes general liability can come into play depending on how a claims adjuster wants to uh, kind of apply the coverage. So say, for example, you're having an online class and you don't tell your clients, okay, we're going to be moving from side to side, so clear everything around your area. You just jump right into the class and start doing things, and somebody doesn't realize that they're going to have to be going 5 feet to the right, and they run into their couch and they say, well, I wasn't told that I needed to have this space. And so I was just following along and I did the thing and I fell. That's something that might end up under a general liability policy, but professional liability is going to be the real key to doing online services. Um, with professional liability and doing virtual services, whether it's pre-recorded or live, you are responsible still for providing certain advice or recommendations or instructions to people, and that is considered your professional service. So, in order for someone to determine that you have been negligent, um, that is determined through a court case, and a judge or a jury will determine your level of negligence there. But they have to prove that you, as a professional, anyone else in your position or with your skill set or knowledge, would act in a certain reasonable way. And so professional liability takes a look at that and says, as the professional, you were supposed to have done this thing and you didn't act that way. So we're going to defend you in this case. But it doesn't really matter whether you're held to be negligent or not. You have that defense at your disposal if someone accuses you of that, or they bring a lawsuit against you claiming that you were negligent. So there's investigation costs, there's the defense costs, the cost of the attorneys, filing stuff in court. All of those things add up. And so a professional liability policy is going to pay for all of that as someone that's on your side. They are going to be there with you every step of the way to defend you and kind of do all of those little steps that are required if you
Mm,
are accused of that.
that's good to
Online
know.
versus in person, it doesn't matter.
Katharine is just in the comments saying, first of all, is cyber liability required when using a hosting site such as OfferingTree? Our third-party processing for payments is through Stripe. So that's all of the payments go through them and their kind of system, and it just builds in it just connects to OfferingTree as an integration. And I have information on the privacy. We have SSL certificates for all of our websites, which means secure sockets layer, and that's like an encryption communication between the website and the visitor's browser. So that meets the requirements there for the OfferingTree platform. And then Katharina also says, I've not found insurance companies here in Quebec willing to cover me for posting online yoga content. Not live classes, but
Interesting.
pre-recorded. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm in Calgary, Alberta. And now I can't remember. My mind's gone blank who I use here, but I know Alternative Balance only serves the US, right, Miriam?
We do. Yeah, we have a couple of companies that we recommend to people. So if you want to reach out to us, we can send you those recommendations. Just reach out to us at support@alternativebalance.com and we can provide you some pathways to get the right insurance. But we do see that come up here in the US as well, where some companies will say, we cover you for online, but only if it's live, because they want to only cover you for watching where you can see real time what your clients are doing. Pre-recorded videos are a little bit more difficult because then if somebody claimed that your pre-recorded video resulted in them getting injured, they would have to prove a direct connection between your video and their injury. And so it's a little bit harder
Okay.
to prove that. And so some companies say we don't even want to deal with it. Go, this is all we cover, or you can go get insurance with somebody else. So with alternative balance, we include all of it because it's just so common and so necessary, especially these days, post COVID, for people to pre-record the videos and then you have subscriptions. So it just makes sense for us to cover that for these industries. But some other older companies still don't quite cover both pre-recorded and live. So definitely you'll want to make sure that you are covered for both. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through quickly what the Alternative Balance Program has as far as coverage limits. We are a little bit higher than what you'll see in most standard markets. So for our general liability and professional liability aggregate, it's $4 million per year. And then for the per occurrence limit, it's $2 million. So you could have up to two $2 million claims per year. So that's actually quite a bit. A lot of times what you'll see out there is 1 million per occurrence, 3 million aggregate, or 2 million, 3 million. Sometimes you'll see that. But ours is 2 million, 4 million. So the products and completed operations aggregate is 2 million. And that just means if you use any products, say, for example, you do esthetician services as well, and you give people lotions to use on their face after their facial service with you is completed. They take it home and they end up getting a rash or have an allergic reaction to that lotion that you've provided. That would be considered a products claim under the products and completed operations category. So for that, it's a $2 million limit per year. So damage to premises rented to you, we are about 3 times what the average is in the market. Most companies have $100,000 for damage to premises rented to you coverage, and we have $300,000. So damage to premises rented coverage is specifically for damage to a premise that you have rented for 7 days or less. So if you're hosting some sort of weekend retreat or a week-long yoga retreat or something like that, or if you're teaching classes, like you could be a yoga teacher teaching yoga to yoga teachers. If you did something like that and something damaged that premise, so say a hotel ballroom that you rented out for a few days, that's the type of coverage that would apply to that situation. So you have $300,000 to damage for a temporarily rented space. Medical expenses on a general and professional liability policy, medical expenses of $5,000 is pretty common. So this is similar to that participant accident coverage that we talked about, where it's no fault coverage, and it pays the medical bills without there having to be a lawsuit. However, on a general and professional liability policy, that is still subject to a claims adjuster deciding to use that amount. So there has to be some sort of claim made against you, and a claims adjuster can use this $5,000 to try and appease the situation and make a lawsuit go away, or convince somebody not to bring a lawsuit against you because they have $5,000 to go towards that person's medical expenses. So it's a pretty low amount. And again, it has to go through the claims adjuster, which can sometimes take a while. So that's why the participant accident is still so important. And we'll get into the coverage limits for that in a second. Personal and advertising injury, that's included. We talked a little bit about that on the other slide, where I talked about general liability covering things like libel and slander. So that's under the personal and advertising injury category. And defense costs. This is the biggest thing you're going to use your insurance policy for, is defense costs. So somebody sues you, the claims adjuster gets that claim in, they determine that there's coverage under the policy for that incident. They're going to assign you an attorney, they're going to assign you an investigation team, and they are going to take all of that and they are going to pay for that using the defense costs out of that $2 million per occurrence general and professional liability coverage limit. So most lawsuits or most claims don't go to court. They usually settle outside of court or they get dismissed. So the defense cost is really going to be the bulk of what you need an insurance policy for. I mean, can you imagine paying for an attorney to defend you for a lawsuit out of your own pocket? I mean, you can hit $25,000 in a weekend. It goes so fast. So knowing that you have this coverage available for you is going to give you a lot of peace of mind. You know, something happens and you're really nervous and kind of freaked out. Your insurance company, if you have the right insurance, they're going to help put you at ease and tell you, look, we've got your back and we've got the defense costs covered. So that's a big thing to pay attention to. So, and then we also have available optionally cyber liability and sexual abuse liability for additional premium if you do want to include those. And you can pick and choose which ones of those you want. All the other things up the top are included, from general and professional liability aggregate all the way down to the defense costs. Everybody gets that. There's no shared limits. These are all, every insured, every member has their own coverage limits. And then you can kind of customize your policy a little bit after that. So business personal property and the business interruption insurance. So this is going to cover your business equipment, like we talked about. Every alternative balance member gets $20,000 in total insurable value, which means $10,000 for the property itself and $10,000 for business interruption and extra expense. So that business interruption is going to pay for your lost income if your business equipment is damaged or stolen or lost. The deductible for this is $500, and that coverage is included for free. But if you do have more than $10,000 worth of equipment, you can increase your coverage on the application and get more of that coverage so that you can make sure to have all of your equipment covered just in case you have a total loss.
Katharina just has a quick question, Miriam.
Sure.
I wonder if this is the right time to ask it. I should have asked it on the prior slides. So the media liability, such as slander, is included in general liability. My insurance sadly charges a very big extra premium for this. Is that the case, that it's in the general liability?
The personal and advertising injury?
The media liability, such as slander, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's included, yes, in the general liability. That's covered under the personal and advertising injury section of the general liability policy. Yeah. So there's no extra charge for that coverage. It's just included. Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, taking you back to
Sure.
those prior slides.
Yeah, no worries. So participant accident insurance. Again, no fault coverage for injuries or accidents your clients experience while using your services. Our coverage includes accidental death and dismemberment and paralysis coverage for 1 million aggregate, 5,000 per accident. If you've ever looked into accidental death and dismemberment coverage for you personally, it's similar to that, where there's a percentage for different kinds of accidents and injuries that the policy will pay according to the severity of it up to death. Accident medical expense limit of $25,000 per accident. So this is similar to that medical expense of $5,000 that we talked about on the general liability policy, where that one has to go through a claims adjuster. But this $25,000, it's a totally separate policy, and it just pays the medical bills no matter what. If somebody gets injured and has medical bills that they want reimbursement for after participating in your services, this is the policy that will cover that. The deductible for that is $500 per covered injury. And there's also some sublimits for dental injuries. So like a chipped tooth or something like that they need to get fixed. It's $100 per tooth and $500 maximum. And the benefit period is 52 weeks from the date of the accident. So that means that for a whole year after they are injured, they have that whole year to submit their reimbursement request to the insurance company to get their medical bills repaid for that specific accident. So that's a pretty decent time period on a participant accident insurance policy. All right, so when I talked at the beginning about giving you some key things to look for when you're trying to find the right insurance for your business, these are the top 4 things that you're going to want to look for. The first one is location restrictions. So a lot of policies will have what is called a premise endorsement or scheduled locations. And that means that they are asking you specifically where you are going to be working. And if they do that, if your insurance policy does that, then it's very likely that you are only covered working at those locations. So if you see that on your policy, that's a good indicator that you're not covered for online services. You're not covered for going to clients' homes. You're not covered for working in multiple gyms. So make sure to pay attention to that. And if you aren't sure, then ask your insurance broker, or you can send your policy to me, and I'm more than happy to do a free insurance review and maybe tell you where some of the gaps might be based on what services you're providing, just to make sure you are covered. The alternative balance policy covers you anywhere you work, anywhere in the world. So you could go to Europe and have a fun weekend exercise retreat for people, or you can go teach. You could do an online class for people all over the world to learn how to do different types of fitness things. Or you could be teaching a yoga class online to anybody anywhere in the world. And the alternative balance policy will cover you for that. So definitely pay attention to any location restrictions. Number 2 is that it covers all the services on one policy. So if you do massage therapy and you teach yoga, maybe you do aesthetic services as well, all 3 of those things should be on one policy. They are similar enough in type that a policy should be able to cover all of them. Our policy covers over 800 trades on one policy. So we make it very easy for you to do whatever it is that your heart desires in the health, beauty, and wellness industries. And you only have to manage one policy. So if you have to manage multiple policies for different services, then things start to get more complicated, right? You have to remember multiple expiration dates. And sometimes you might forget one when you do the other. So having everything on one policy is really going to make it easy for your business. So number 3 is making sure that it covers online and pre-recorded services. So we talked a little bit about this already, where making sure that your policy doesn't restrict you for live versus pre-recorded. Making sure it covers you for having public videos. So say you put out some free videos on YouTube to get clients in to sign up for your paid services. Some policies will exclude coverage for that because, again, it's difficult to connect a video to an injury when you're not actually live on that video at that time. So make sure you double check on that. So number 4 is read the exclusions and sublimits for any specific coverages on your policy. It's unfortunate, but sometimes defense costs are sublimited, which means, say you have a $2 million per occurrence limit. Some policies will say, we're only going to pay up to $300,000 for defense costs. I actually came across a policy a few months ago where the defense costs were capped at $25,000. That's not going to pay for very much. That's going to go really fast. And then you'd be stuck having to pay for the rest of the defense costs out of your own pocket. So looking at any sublimits that you have in your policy is going to be very important to understanding what you might be on the hook for should you have a claim. We also recommend carefully reading the exclusions section of your policy. If you don't read anything else, read the exclusions. That's going to be kind of the biggest clue as to if there's something related to your services that is not covered under your policy. There are a lot of policies that people can get online that are general business policies. And unfortunately, those policies have exclusions like does not cover fitness related activities. So Unless you read that exclusion section, you wouldn't know that your fitness services aren't covered under that, because the buying a policy online isn't going to detail out the exclusions a lot of times. So it's important to read through that, or if you're using an insurance agent or an insurance broker, make sure you talk to them about what it is that you do so that the policy they get for you is going to be the right one and not exclude your services that you think you have coverage for. So with the alternative balance application, we have a section on our application where you agree to the excluded services and you click on that and it shows the list of services that we exclude. So we keep it very straightforward, very simple. Here's what we don't cover. So if you don't see something like that, you're going to want to ask about those exclusions before you sign up for a policy. So these four things are going to, if you focus on these four things, you're going to really have a head start on making sure that you have a policy that works right for you.
So Miriam, on that,
Yeah,
I have a couple of questions. So
sure.
when we use a broker, which I think I've used a broker in the past, that if you tell them what you need, they're kind of legally required to provide the coverage. Like, there's no gaps, is there? There's no shortcuts that they might take if you go through a broker.
Yeah, they legally are supposed to make sure that the coverage you are getting is the coverage that you are asking for. I think sometimes even the brokers might not really know. They might work with various insurance companies that say this is the policy we use for these industries. And so a broker sometimes will get that policy and they will have been told by their insurance company, this is what we issue for these people. And it might not be as comprehensive as they think.
Okay.
So it would be beneficial to go through it with your broker and say, can we take just a few extra minutes here to go through this because I want to double check? Because sometimes you're going to find something that way that the broker wasn't even aware of that was in those policies. So it's worthwhile just to ask the question. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true. You've just made me realize, because my insurance asks, like, I had to be really specific about what kind of yoga I teach. But because I was so specific, if I went to teach a subclass, I might not be covered for that, because it's not always within the realm of what I'm insured for. But oftentimes studios sometimes require you to have insurance. Sometimes they provide the insurance for you, right? Would you say that a movement teacher would always need professional liability insurance just for their own protection?
I think that would be the best practice, yes. Because even if a studio or a gym provides coverage for you, their insurance policy might still exclude you if you are named specifically on a lawsuit. So someone could sue the studio for something you did, but if they named you specifically, that could be an opening for the studio's insurance policy to not cover you. So if you are part of a studio's insurance policy, it would definitely be a good idea to request a copy of that just to take a look at, what exclusions those might have on it, or take that to whatever broker you're working with and say, look, this is a policy that I think covers me, but where are the gaps? So if you don't want to worry about that, then it's definitely a good idea to have your own. At $269 a year, I think there's a lot of peace of mind that comes with that. Plus, the other benefit is if an opportunity presents itself for you to offer services somewhere else, you don't really want to miss out on those services because you're not going to be covered by the studio's insurance policy. So business-wise, it's good to have that in place so that you're not restricted in what opportunities you can just grab onto and run with.
And would you say there's any glaring red flags for business policies that you see that we should be aware of if you're looking at a policy?
Well, the defense cost sublimit is going to be a really big thing. And again, a red flag would be if a service is specifically excluded, like seeing that there's a fitness fitness services exclusion, which is just every time I think about it, I think it's so ridiculous, but it
Hmm.
happens because with most insurance companies, they are what is called admitted insurance companies. And that means that they have to, at least here in the US, that means that they have to submit their policy forms to the state along with whatever rates they're charging. And the state has to approve those policy forms. And so if an insurance company has filed a certain policy with a state, they can't really change that in order to accommodate other industries or changes in the industries very quickly. It takes them a couple of years to do that. And so they'll just continue issuing the same policy that they've had because it's such an arduous process to get the state to approve a new policy form.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times they just say, well, generally most claims that might happen will fall under this policy form, but there still are those gaps. So
Yeah.
it's just good to review and make sure that it fits your services. So I would say those two are the biggest things to look out for.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good to know. And I can see Elizabeth in the comments. She mentioned earlier Philadelphia as an insurance provider who she's about to renew with. Would it be okay if Elizabeth sends you a copy of the policy to take a look?
Yeah,
Because this is great
absolutely.
information.
Yeah, we'll have at the end of the presentation, there's a slide that has our contact information on it. So if you just want to send that over to our team, they can get you in contact with me, and I can take a look at that, and I'll respond back with some things that I find in that. So anybody, if you want an insurance review of your current coverage, just reach out to us and let me know, and I'll be happy to do it.
And Nicole was asking, does alternative balance insurance cover those public videos, the free videos?
We do. Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, Katharina, it's sad in Quebec because the health insurance coverage isn't great. The coverage for health industry is terrible.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think we have some good contacts for Canada, so maybe we can help you out there. Um,
yeah.
maybe at some point we'll be in Canada. I think that's a long-term
Very
goal for
cool.
alternative balance, but it is a long process to get approved in Canada.
Yeah. Quebec's
Yeah,
slightly different.
Quebec.
Katharina's saying, yeah, it is. It's got different laws, hasn't it?
Yeah, for
No, we'd
sure.
love to see you on the Canadian side, Miriam.
Well, we'll put that down as a another endorsement for our long-term goal there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, so let's talk about waivers. So we get the question, are liability waivers really that important? Yep, they really are. Sometimes we'll hear that if a waiver goes to court, a lot of times it's not upheld because of one thing or another. But like I said, most lawsuits don't actually get to court. So the waivers are super important for preventing a lawsuit from moving forward. They're super important for um, making sure people understand the risks that they are signing up for when they decide to participate in your service. And that's just good business practice. So there are a lot of benefits to having liability waivers and getting them signed. So with waivers, you want to have your clients sign them annually, and you want to keep those waivers for 7 years. I think in Canada, the statute of limitations might be a little different, but in the US, keeping your waivers for 7 years, that's kind of the timeline for someone coming back to sue you for an injury. So keep those, get them signed annually. Anytime you update your waiver, anytime you change your services, or change how you offer your services, you're going to want your clients to re-sign that waiver just to make sure they're always up to date. We also highly recommend having disclaimers available online. So if you are doing, say, a Facebook Live video, or you're posting those public videos on YouTube, make sure that you have some sort of disclaimer that releases you of liability for those videos. So have it in your profile, have it in the video description, just down at the bottom, that's fine. If you're doing a Zoom class, for example, Zoom lets you have a pop-up waiver when someone joins the Zoom that they have to agree to that liability waiver. So that's very simple, and Zoom will track that for you. There's lots of different services. So like OfferingTree makes it really easy to have waivers that your members can
Mhm.
or that your clients can sign. So, so what goes into a waiver? What are the things that your waiver needs to have in order to make it the best that it can be to protect you? So the first thing is clear and explicit language. You want to very clearly outline the specific risks associated with the activity that you are providing or the service that you're providing. So with yoga, for example, you want to outline that, the risks of yoga include pulled muscles or, whatever else. You guys are the experts in some of the different injuries or overexertions that you see in your classes. But outlining that is going to be very important and making it clear language. So then you also want to have a very clear release of liability. You want to explicitly state that the participant is agreeing to release you or your company from liability for injuries or damages. This puts the responsibility of them choosing to participate in your activity back on them. And that's exactly what you want. So you also want to make sure to include an informed consent clause. So you want the participant to acknowledge that they have read, understood, and voluntarily agree to the terms that are in the waiver. The voluntary participation section, you want the participant to say that they are choosing to engage in the activity of their own free will without any coercion. This is going to, again, go back to that clear and explicit language, making sure that the client, your client or participant, is understanding what it is they are agreeing to. And they are going to sign it and date it as part of the legal enforceability of this waiver. So there's not going to be any doubt that they understood the risks, they understood what they were signing up for, they read through it, and they're agreeing to it. So the other part of legal enforceability is local laws. So different states have different requirements for what constitutes an enforceable waiver. So you want to make sure that you have checked with a local attorney who specializes in your state or who specializes in waivers for the US or for Canada, wherever you are, and make sure that your waiver is constructed in accordance with those local laws and regulations. So with Alternative Balance, we provide members connections to attorneys and different legal resources to make sure that you have your waivers kind of really locked down with their legal enforceability. So we provide templates for you that you can customize for your business, and then getting those checked by the legal representative is going to be very important.
Cool. We've got a couple of questions on waivers here, Miriam.
Sure.
So Catherine is saying online waivers can work, and I know that is the case, right?
Yes. Online waivers can work. Online, if you're getting somebody to sign a waiver digitally, make sure that whatever service you're using tracks who it is that's signing it, the date they sign it, maybe even some other information like their IP address, stuff like that. And you want to make sure you still save it or you have access to the waiver to download that. Because if a claim happens and a claims adjuster says, we need that waiver, you want to be able to go grab that and provide that to the claims adjuster.
And Elizabeth saying, I have a silly question. I don't think there's any silly questions when it
No
comes
silly
to
questions.
insurance at all, and certainly not to OfferingTree either. Do your clients have to sign a waiver every time they take a class? Is there a time limit in person or on Zoom? I do have a pop-up waiver every time they sign up for a class.
So the pop-up waivers every time they sign up for a class, I think that's good. But really, you only need to get the waiver signed once a year, or if you change it. Like I mentioned, if you change your services, so say that you add a Zumba class to your offerings, in addition to the yoga, you're going to want to add the risks of Zumba and name Zumba in your waiver specifically, so that everybody who signs that knows all the details regardless of which service it is that they sign up for. You want to make it as broad as possible. The other thing you want to consider is including a photo release in that waiver so that if you're recording your class or if you take photos to use on your social media, you want to have your clients, people who are participating in that class, already giving you their permission to use their photos on your social media or in your marketing. So that's something else that you might want to include.
Cool. Nicole is saying, should a consent form list my name and my LLC name?
Yes, yes. You want to include your name, any name that you operate your business under, whether it's just your name or whether you have an LLC or a DBA. If you use any of those, you want to list all of those in the waiver. So a lot of times you'll list all those out and then you'll have like a term that you'll use throughout the waiver so you don't have to type that out every time throughout the whole waiver. So you'll just say, you know, Nicole, DBA, Yoga Services Inc. as the company. And so then from then on, you'll just say company instead of your name and your DBA.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And in OfferingTree, we have you can assign a waiver to every offering that you want to. There's a default waiver that the system provides, and you can add as many waivers in there as you want, and then you can see who signed them, and there's all that in your sort of waiver registration window. Nicole saying thank you. Elizabeth saying thank you. This is great information. I think waivers are a big one, right? Because we want to make sure it's right, watertight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And using a service like OfferingTree that makes it easy for you to get those waivers signed and keep track of them is going to be really, really valuable. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of paperwork. So yeah, this is one of the reasons why we really like working with OfferingTree is because their platform is so useful and they've thought out these things that are going to protect you from a risk management perspective. They have so many features that are highly beneficial to protecting you before an injury, preventing injuries, and afterward, if somebody does get injured, you have access to a lot of things that are going to help your claims adjuster defend you and protect you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Angela's got a good question here, actually. How do I include the disclaimer before the Zoom recording starts?
Yeah, in Zoom, there are some places where I don't remember exactly where in the menu system. Zoom has a lot of really good help articles, and it's pretty clear where to find those. So if you just Google like add waiver to Zoom, I think it'll tell you where in the menu system to go. I think it's in like company settings or something like that, where you can have there's like a little pop-up where you put your disclaimer language or your waiver language. And then for each meeting, or you can set it to turn on for each meeting. I'm sorry, I don't know specifically where in the menu system that is in Zoom, but I remember it being pretty straightforward and pretty easy to read through the how-to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let us know, Angela, does that answer your question yet? Or are you thinking of, I know I've seen sometimes people put a disclaimer on the screen on a pre-recorded video, don't they? I've seen that on YouTube movement videos.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they've got some YouTube how-to too. Sure. Yeah. Thank you guys for your questions. These are really, really good questions. Okay, good. Thanks, Angela. Okay. So before we get into the benefits of an AB membership, just that third piece of the risk management portion, empathy, not responsibility. So the do's and don'ts after an injury sheet that you'll get after this kind of goes through some of those basic things that you want to pay attention to. So in addition to that, one thing you're going to want to do is have a process in place now for what you're going to do if somebody does get injured. Planning ahead for those things is going to save you valuable time and mental mental clarity when those accidents happen, because they're going to happen at some point, whether or not someone sues you for medical bills or not, or sues you for negligence or not, um, kind of doesn't really matter if you have these things in place because, uh, having all the steps outlined beforehand, is going to help you know how to respond. You're going to want to let your insurance company know when an incident happens. Um, it's not, this isn't auto insurance. So being worried about your rates increasing because you reported an incident, it doesn't really happen in this commercial insurance space. The sooner you report an incident, the better the insurance company is going to be able to help you. If there's not an actual lawsuit or a claim that results from that incident, um, then it's just kind of you reported something there and there's no claim. There's no money that the insurance company had to pay out on your behalf. So it doesn't hurt to report the incident right away. You're going to have all the information in your mind. It's going to be fresh. You're going to be able to get witness statements. And it's just going to be an extra level of protection for you to report that right away. So don't be afraid to report an incident or an injury to your insurance company. That's the best thing you can do right off the bat. So one thing I will say from that fitness do's and don'ts sheet that is very important is don't say I'm sorry. If someone gets injured, really try and refrain from saying I'm sorry you're hurt or I'm sorry this happened, because that will be seen as an admission of guilt, and that makes it harder for the company to defend you. So be careful about what you say. And that's why I say respond with empathy, but not responsibility. So be empathetic and get them the medical help they need. Don't transport the injured party anywhere. We had somebody at one point tell a story about how they had a client that got injured and they drove them to the hospital. And that's just opening yourself up for more liability at that point. So don't diagnose the injury, don't transport them to a hospital. Some of those things are actions that you want to stay away from when it comes to legal problems that might arise. So yeah, okay, look, yeah, there we have the do's and don'ts sheet. So yeah, keep that with you. Refer back to that periodically and come up with a plan ahead of time for how to respond to incidents. All right, so the benefits of an AB membership. We've got the business protection portion that we just went through with the insurance and the waivers. We also have promotion and collaboration. So you guys have a big network of people. And with Alternative Balance, we want to connect you to share your business experience, to share your knowledge, and help each other grow. And so we really try and facilitate communication amongst our members so that you guys can help each other and network and partner up and kind of collaborate on some fun things. So that's a big portion of our membership benefits that people really, really enjoy. Business resources. You have access to industry discounts, business webinars, liability templates, intake forms, and other templates that you can use for building your business, and some other business tools to help you grow. So we really try and make this a collaborative, really comprehensive solution for protecting and building your business at the same time.
And a quick question, if we've got time to squeeze one in, Miriam, is
Sure.
Angela saying, it's scary. What do we do if an injury happens?
If an injury happens, on that do's and don'ts sheet, the do's, there's kind of a list of the first things you want to do. You want to make sure that the injured party is getting the medical attention that they need. You want to report the incident to your insurance company. You want to get witness statements. Take photographs if you can, take video if you can, and do what you what you need to do to prevent further injury. So if somebody slips on some water on your studio floor, for example, and they fall, um, clean that water up as soon as you can so that nobody else slips on it, so that you don't slip on it. So things like that, just some of these common sense things, if you think about them beforehand, then when an incident happens, you're not going to have to think about it, and it's just going to become second nature. We use the term common sense, but it's common sense goes out the window really fast when you're flustered or when something has happened and you're trying to figure something out. It's these little things that you just forget to do. So that's why I recommend having a plan written out beforehand so that you just don't have to think about these little things. You can just read a sheet and check it off a checklist and make sure that the injured person gets the help that they need right away.
Yeah, and Catherine is saying having an up-to-date first aid certification helps absolutely to deal with an injury and respond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great information. Someone's asking, does it cover teachers who work at the studio? We touched on that earlier, that it depends on the studio insurance, right? But it's probably worth having your own just to cover you in all events anyway. And Maria's
Yeah.
saying, would you say, sorry, I'm assuming that Miriam is talking over you. Do you want to answer
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah. So,
that?
yeah, we would cover the teachers who work at the studio. If you own a studio and have employees, we can cover you and your employees as well. So there's kind of multiple levels to what kind of teachers in a studio that we would
Okay.
cover. So, yeah.
And Maria's got a great question, which occurred to me earlier. What about serving food or beverages at an event? So, say like at a retreat, what requirements do we have for that?
So I think some policies might exclude that. We have an exclusion for products that are meant to be ingested, but that's not necessarily considered uh, your product. I mean, it's kind of incidental to the event. If you are having an event though, we recommend having a supplemental event insurance policy. They cover different types of things that will include food and beverages. If you plan on serving things like um, wine or champagne or something like that, some sort of alcoholic beverage, you're going to want to have separate insurance for that as well. Event insurance is pretty inexpensive. I mean, you can get a 3-day event covered for something like $99 online. So it's good to have those in addition to ours, because our policy is really focused on you as a professional providing a service. So kind of whatever comes with that is kind of incidental. So serving food and beverages at an event, maybe we don't ever like to say a definitive yes or no to coverage questions, because the claims adjuster is going to have to look at everything that is surrounding the incident to determine coverage. So one of my staple phrases in insurance is "it depends." Um, so just pay attention to those exclusions on the policy, like we talked about, and talk to your insurance agent, talk to your insurance company, talk to your broker. Ask those questions when you have the insurance policy. They're not really going to give you a yes or no definitive, because, like I said, there's so many factors that go into if coverage is applied. So, yeah, just ask questions like you just did. So it looks like we have some other questions. I do sound healing with crystal bowls. We do cover crystal bowl sound healing, yes. Out on your property. Go ahead, Sinead.
So Elizabeth saying, I would add on my property on my yoga deck. Thus far, I do not travel you don't travel to different locations. So you would add the property onto your yoga policy, thinking, Elizabeth, if you just clarify on that a little. Angela's asking the difference between alternative balance and B-yogi, which appeals to a lot of yoga teachers as well. So I'll let you speak to that, Miriam. I think I know most of the answer, but
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities for sure. They're designed to cover yoga teachers, yoga instructors, and we are as well. Our policy covers a lot more services than Yoga's policy does. We have different coverage limits. And we also have the participant accident coverage and that business personal property and business interruption coverage. And I don't believe Yogi has those two coverages included in their plan. So our coverage is a lot more broad and covers a lot more different types of services in addition to yoga. If you're just looking for yoga insurance, the participant accident piece is going to be the biggest difference, in addition to our coverage limits being higher. But that participant accident coverage, which is going to pay your client's medical bills without having to go through a liability claims adjuster, that's going to be the biggest benefit for you in preventing lawsuits and protecting your relationship with your client. And Yogi doesn't have that participant accident coverage.
Okay, I'm just saying thank you. And then Elizabeth just clarified that it covers my yoga sound sessions on my property. I am an LLC.
Yes, our policy would cover you for providing sessions on your own property, whether you're an LLC or not. I do recommend checking with your homeowner's insurance to see if they would require you to have a business public liability endorsement on your homeowner's policy. That won't affect our coverage, but sometimes if you are having clients at your home, a claim that you would normally put through your homeowner's insurance would maybe be denied because they didn't know you were having clients come to your home. So check with them as well. But our policy would cover incidents that happen to your clients while you're providing services on your property.
Awesome.
Yeah, these are really, really great questions. Thank you guys. I appreciate your participation. All right, so with Alternative Balance, our policy, our membership, because it's more than just a policy, it's a membership, starts at $269 per year. And if you scan this QR code, I think there's a discount. Is that right, Sinead?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so then it would be $249 a year for your first year.
Yeah. Yeah, Angela. So that QR code should have the discount built into it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. It looks like Nicole said she already has an alternative balance policy. Awesome. Still like to review. Yeah, just send an email to support@alternativebalance.com, and they will send that over to me, and then I can get back to you on that. I'd love to go through those additional coverages with you. All right, so yeah, to connect with us, you can call us, you can text us, send us a message on social media. Instagram, we're at Alternative Balance. Email us at support@alternativebalance.com. And just come visit our website, browse around, get some information. If you are ready to sign up, use this QR code and get the OfferingTree discount. And it's just a simple two-step application, only takes 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how fast you are. And your coverage is instantly effective. You get your confirmation in your email right away, and you can hop on and look at your member benefits anytime or manage your policy. And yeah, we'll reach out to you when it's time to renew so that you don't forget. And yeah, we'll help you with whatever you need.
And Nicole is saying that she can say the customer service is fantastic at Alternative Balance.
Awesome.
That's
yeah, they're great.
Catherine is saying thank you for all the great information. At least I know more for my next renewal here in Quebec. Exactly. And you might reach out to Miriam. Great. Yeah, this has been fantastic. Yeah. Maria's saying thank you. It's been so informative. Thanks, Miriam.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm really happy to hear all these questions, and it's been great to share the information with you guys.
That is wonderful. And yes, everyone, we will have the replay email out to you in the next couple of hours with some links. And there is actually a link to set a reminder for when your insurance policy renews, and that will be in that email. Elizabeth is saying, going to discuss and go over your policy now. Yes, that's great. So yeah, I'm going to pause the recording here.